Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Before Dawn. I'm your co-host, Dylan, aka Human Design Maven, and this week David's out of the office. He's integrating some new upgrades into his templates. So we thought we'd do a little special program because this week we're falling right on the Capricorn full moon, which was exact this morning at 11:37 a.m. And we're going to do a little bit of a human design horoscope, if you will, a breakdown of the energies that this moon presents and how it might connect to your design and therefore elicit catalyzing something new coming through, new information, and just connecting deeper to your innate true frequency. So the way that we do a human design transit report is that we only actually look at the personality side of the design, so of the body graph, I should say. So when we're looking at a person, they obviously have the personality and the design. There's this dualistic juxtaposition of the conscious and the unconscious. When we go into an actual event, we only go on the personality side because obviously this full moon is not a person, it does not have a body, and therefore we only look at the conscious imprint that's coming through. So this full moon is in gate 61, line 1. And this is a very powerful gate for a number of reasons. But first and foremost, it's really interesting to note that this is the same gate that the Saturn-Pluto conjunction happened in January of 2020. So this was really the event that kicked off what we've come to see as the Great Reset. You know, this wholesale restructuring of everything that we know, the foundation of what we considered truth up to that point. Now, gate 61 is kind of the crucible of inner truth. It's this acoustic capacity to tap into pure existential truth, and it's through the sound, it's through resonance that we find what is actually true for us. So gate 61 is not necessarily about facts and figures and histories and even a projection into the future. It's about this deep attunement to our inner ear and to what's truly returning, surfacing for us at this time. So gate 61 has undergone this massive reconstruction and, destruction in 2020 because whenever Pluto crosses a gate in human design, we understand that that gate is undergoing it's kind of being killed off in its own form, its old form, and then it's being reborn and kind of resurrected in a new way. And because this is kind of like a full circle moment for that energy and this process that we've been going through for the past 2 years, it's really about seeing how we've resurrected into a new form of ourselves, how we've crystallized a new lens on life, how we are able to see the world through a whole new spectrum of what truth is. And because it's in line 1, it actually falls in a placement that in traditional human design is called occult knowledge. And that's showing us that the foundation of what truth is based on is occult knowledge. What is occult knowledge? Anything that speaks on or reveals the deeper mechanics of life. Human design is an occult system, astrology is an occult system, and there's no negative connotation there because occult only means what is hidden. But what is hidden from the mind's eye, so to speak, is actually what's responsible for most of how things move in this world, how energy generates and regenerates, changes form, and what's actually pushing these people down here on Earth to do the things they're doing at certain times. So this is an individual gate, which means it has all to do with your individual energy. We all come into this world with a unique template, a unique crystal of consciousness. And we're here to express purely what type of awareness and what type of energy that crystal of consciousness represents or is encoded with. So for each person, this moon in an individual way, on a unique personal level, is bringing to light this new crystallized view of where we're going, who we are, what matters, what is in and out of resonance for us. And it's probably bringing up some secrets because occult knowledge, again, is this hidden knowledge. So for each person, there is some kind of attunement to a revelation of some kind, full moons being these apex points that are conclusions, celebrations, culminations, and revelations of something. So Capricorn being this sign of the builder, of society, of the 10th house of Saturn. The 61 energy is really coming through all that spectrum of what we've built and how we've built ourselves over the past 2 years, what we've rebuilt, what we've destroyed on purpose because it's no longer relevant. And this moon is quite literally shining the way to our future. You know, we've emerged through a process, and now it's kind of like you're in tune with the new earth paradigm, or you're not. You know, you see things differently for how they really are, or you don't. And that's the beauty of this moon, because it really feels like a celebration point, because we've really survived something. We've lived through a cataclysmic event, series of events. And it's not that this journey is over, but it is a time in which we can kind of come back up for air. We can kind of look around and observe the landscape of our life and see where we stand now, and how powerful or how strong or how resilient we've become through the changes and through basically having our old paradigm shattered all in one lifetime. This kind of transformation, you know, prior to this era might take several lifetimes, and we get to live through this kind of experience in just 2 years' time. So it's quite insane, and I think we'll still not really fully understand the magnitude of what's taken place for some time. But in this moment, there is kind of an ability to enjoy the new form that you're taking, the new direction that you're going in, and this refined sense of being firmly anchored in the true, the authentic, the organic, and those things that are life-giving. And I think that's the greatest standard for us going forward, is that, you know, as a collective, it's really like nature herself has become the guide. And if we look at Gate 61 through the lens of the gene keys, this is part of a codon group called the Ring of Gaia. And this is really about how the Earth itself has an immense consciousness, far beyond our capacity to process, think, and ideate. But this consciousness of the planetary logos is here now, kind of downloading new instruction sets into our fields through this moon. As you know, we're in Cancer season, so this is a Sirius alignment. Sirius is the star that is kind of like our spiritual sun, and the Sirius civilization and the Sirian consciousness, which is of the 6th dimension, has been huge and instrumental in the development and the guardianship of the human species. So there may be a strong connection that you feel with the Sirian consciousness, and perhaps there could be revelations around your connection to this group of beings. Perhaps you've been a ground crew, so to speak, working on behalf of these larger consciousness bodies without even knowing it. And this might be a moment in which you can look back or look into the now or look into yourself and see, wow, you know, I'm part of a team. You know, I'm doing something here that wasn't clear to me in the micro, but as I look at this macro, because this is very much like, you know, almost like astral projecting out of your body and looking down on your life and everything that makes up the circuitry of your life and being like, whoa, I see the bigger pattern. I see how it all works. And I see what's been behind it, occult knowledge, seeing what's behind the obvious. So Gate 61 in the Ring of Gaia is really also about the shadow of psychosis. And this really happens because in the crown center, we have a mental pressure center. Mental pressure is what puts that stimulus, that motivation, that stress on our minds to think and think and think and become clear and become certain and figure out how it all goes. So if we don't channel this energy appropriately, or we get too stuck in our heads, or if we have this kind of layer of concepts and clunky ideas that kind of get in the way of us accessing that pure frequency of truth, the energy of this moon, being quite intense and quite full of pressure on the mind, could perhaps almost short circuit or overload the fuses of the brain. And what happens there is that an overloaded brain is not processing correctly and therefore manifests as psychosis, this overwhelming pressure to figure it all out all at once, but being unable to find clarity. And that kind of creates a frenetic state, a fearful state even, or at least a confused state. But the really high vibration expression of this is seeing the unity in all things. If you can't see God in all, it is said, you can't see God at all. So this is also a place in which we can evolve out of or zoom out of the polarity, the duality, the division that may be seemingly quite powerful and resistant at this time. And we're able to look at how it all fits together as a whole. So there may have been moments in this journey over the past 2 years where it may have seemed like a very dark versus light struggle, so to speak. And it's in these moments of illumination, high up in the crown center, where we can see past that good versus bad, dark versus light duality, and see that it's all part of one story. And in that sense of understanding it's all part of one story, we can even love our enemies, so to speak. We can understand that that's their best they can do. That's their dharma, perhaps, in this life. That's their highest soul calling, is to play that role in the collective story. And in a sense, be an agent for the program, be an agent of pushing evolution forwards by stimulating humanity into some drastic changes, some dark corners, and some experiences that make us really come to grips with who we really are and what we really are and what we're really doing here. So Gate 61 is such a beautiful gate, and I feel that it factors into a lot of our charts that are systems workers, that are using these occult systems. Because if you have this in your design, there is this innate attunement to understanding systems as a whole, whether that's natural systems of ecology, systems of the body, systems of knowledge, or just like the solar system, the galaxy, the whole thing. So there's some other aspects to this chart here that we're going to go through. And it's also important to see that the sun is in gate 62. So we've just finished a journey through the previous gate, and now we're stepping into gate 62, which is the gate of detail. And in this chart, gate 62 in the sun is connecting to Jupiter in gate 17. So we have this whole channel here of acceptance of that life needs to be organized, acceptance of needing to put the details in order to make a coherent story, to make a coherent program. We have to have that logic behind the way that we see and the way that we express what we see in order to really have an effective and translatable expression of truth. We also have the 4323 in play, which is where the nodes are. The south node is in Scorpio in gate 43, which is all about breakthrough. So at this time, we're kind of stripping away layers from the third eye. We're kind of decalcifying the pineal gland, so to speak. And through that shedding process that the south node creates, we're able to see more clearly. We're able to get closer to that true breakthrough, that true attunement to the moment that actually has that timeless truth in it that's always been there. It's only our mind and its obsession with certainty about the future or the past that prevents us from accessing that quantum 0-point field in which all information is stored at all times across all time and space. So that's another really strong aspect here with gate 61, is that it is tapping into that primal sound field. We live in this universe of the light. That's why we can see. That's why we have forms. That's why there's differentiation between this table and my body. It's the universe of the light. It's the Maya. And it's the dark matter universe that holds the universe of light in functioning capacity. It's basically like when we think of somebody's personality and design, the personality side is the light. It's what we see. It's what we experience. It's what we know. And that's beautiful, it's necessary, but it's actually possible because of the design, which is the yin, the feminine, the dark matter aspect. So there's like an innate ability to tap into the pregnant darkness, as they say, to the codes that are laden in every atom, and to understand that we can glean this deep quantum awareness through what this moon's influence brings. And that's a beautiful thing, because I think that there's a lot of impatience, there's a lot of confusion, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of generators out there waiting for that next big thing, kind of waiting for that thing that they can respond to wholeheartedly with every cell in their body and be like, yes, I'm on purpose, I'm in attunement with myself, this is what it's supposed to be like. And because we've gone through this massive restructuring, and this moon is kind of like the full circle moment to that period, within the next 2 weeks or within the next 6 months, a lot of you can expect to have this next step that you're looking for come forth on your path, especially Not especially, but I want to focus on generators and manifesting generators a little bit more right now, because we have so much power, we have so much energy, we set the vibrational tone for the planet, and yet so many of us are still kind of stuck in our heads, a little bit worried that nothing's coming, and really uncomfortable with that waiting to respond that is innately the core of our process. So with moons like this, it's showing us that there is an illumination coming, there is clarity coming, and if it's not happening right here and right now, don't worry, because it's probably just actually the codes are downloading into the nervous system and they're going to be integrated over time, and that's going to shift the reality that you're creating, and it's going to attract those next cooperative components, those right place, right time meetings with your soul family, and things like that to kind of connect you to your next timeline. So I would take this time to celebrate, because in a sense, we're not going to have as much time to sit around anymore. You know, there is something uncomfortable about waiting, but there's actually a huge blessing in that, because in the waiting period, as generators and MGs specifically, we're charging up in preparation for all the energy we're going to have to expend when the next cycle comes. So I think the next 6 months are going to be very much an acceleration of stepping into our gifts, stepping into our knowing, trusting ourselves, trusting that quiet, still voice within is spot on, and that we can push past all this external pressure, all this external projection, expectation, old cycles of showing up way too much for things that don't value our energy correctly, always being responsible for everyone else's well-being when it's actually our growth and our alignment and our evolution that we're here to experience, and that's going to be most satisfying to us. So keep that in mind, that, you know, the vacation might be ending soon, and that's a beautiful thing, because we get to leap into action and find our next powerful initiation. But at the same time, it's like, oh man, we're going to be going, we're going to be booking, we're going to make big decisions, big leaps, because we're still in a tiger year in which randomly things can just show up and be like, hey, here's your perfect dream. Are you ready to take the leap? And we have to be ready, because these opportunities are not going to come again. So gate 53 is where Mercury is. It's the gate of new beginnings. This is the cycle we just finished last week. So we just initiated this new beginnings energy in the week prior, kind of getting ready to launch into the new experience. And Mercury in 53 is perhaps illuminating, making it clear to us, messaging to us, as Mercury does, about the good news of what is the new propulsion, what is the new fixation, what is the new focus for our energy and our creative processes. Venus is in gate 12 in Gemini. This is about having the voice to express the emotions. So this is amazing, because many of us have stuck emotional baggage. Many of us have emotional truths that we've been afraid to admit to ourselves or to others. We've had confrontations and conflicts that are actually rooted in what is correct for us that we haven't had the courage to have. Gate 12 says, the time for caution has ended. It's now time to act upon the awareness of your spirit as it's been communicating to you through your body, through your dreams, through your emotions, as you've been literally integrating more and more of the high vibrational energy of your highest self. It's literally plugging into your body, downloading into your form, mutating you from the inside out in a process of involution as well as evolution. And this gate 12 in Venus making everything an easy flow, Venus making it very lovely to express our emotional truth all of a sudden, Venus making it very easy for us to purge stuck, craggy, weird emotional energy that has literally been blocking our clarity for far too long. And there's another opportunity right there. So this full moon being so powerfully just hammering on the crown, it's going to distribute that energy through the nerve system and through the natal pathways. And part of that is having to push out some old debris, push out some old residue of the conditioning that we all deal with. Conditioning isn't just, oh, my mind is getting in my way. Conditioning actually does infiltrate into our cellular body. So when we have the solar plexus, when we have the throat, ready to manifest or express something from the solar plexus, we have a great capacity to quickly and sometimes very uncomfortably and very powerfully purge energy that's not needed there anymore. Mars is in 27.5, so there's this strong drive to nurture something, which is interesting. Mars is like a very hot, and in human design, we actually call it immaturity. In human design, Mars shows us this vast reservoir of creative energy that we have, but that takes time to develop into its mature form. We say that it really comes into its full expression in a balanced way around the Uranus opposition, which is usually between ages 40 and 44 for most people. So Mars here is pushing us to mutate a new way to care. And so if you've found yourself kind of drawn to things, because this is the sacral energy, the sacral is something that's magnetic. So either it draws things to us or it draws us to things. And here in the 27, it's showing us what needs to be nurtured, what needs to be nourished, which aspects of our lives, the foundation of our lives, our livelihood, our income, our relationships, our networks, our allies, our alliances, new people in our community, people that don't have advocacy and access to things that we do. Where are we placing our focus for nurturing? And this is about protecting life. This is about protecting what is sacred, which is the life force and all the forms that the life force embodies through. So all living things, basically. And then, of course, we have Jupiter, Big Daddy Jupiter in Aries in gate 17. And this is the gate of the logical way that we look at the world. Gate 17 takes in impressions, opinions, viewpoints, and it organizes them very logically through its connection to gate 62. So at this time, we're also becoming extremely focused, perhaps, on a certain vision that is going to be a rallying cry, that is going to be a clarion call for those who were meant to impact and help in this life to say, come on, look, here's the vision. Come with us, let's do this. And so gate 17 is known as the gate of following, because it's through our dedication and our commitment to our vision, and to also being able to co-create with the universe and be receptive and listen to those edits that the universe wants us to incorporate in our vision. And in blending that, have this logical framework through which we can move forward and actually make progress, because this is logic. This is about the study of patterns, the analysis of life, and knowing how to figure out what works and what doesn't, and course correct as we go. So there is an ability to stop, analyze, make better, and move forward with gate 17. And this plays into our expansion, of course, because that's what Jupiter is all about. So Jupiter being this divine logos in the kind of mechanical way that we look at the solar system through human design, Jupiter is actually kind of the CPU, the central processing unit of our galaxy, or I should say of our solar system. So what that means is, a lot of the neutrino imprint, a lot of the quantum imprint that we receive to make our designs happen obviously comes from the sun, because most of the stars in the sky are generating most of the neutrinos. But because we live in this colorful little solar system over here, and we have this giant Jupiterian essence floating around with us, it's like the second most powerful source of our imprint. So Jupiter really lays down the law in our chart. It shows us what law we have to follow to stay in alignment with the divine logos, with divine order. And when we see it in the transits, we see, here is the law of the now. Here is the law of the current timeline. It's all about finding our vision, refining our vision, sticking to our vision, and holding that intention, that frequency in our field, so that those that are meant to come along with us in this endeavor, in this new experience, in launching these seeds of the new earth, can find us. Because it's not just through speaking and expressing and sharing that we garner attention and connect to our cooperative forces. It's actually through holding the intention in our field, no matter what your type. It's not just generators that are attracting in this way. So Jupiter wants us to expand through our visions, and Saturn says, and it's got to be revolutionary. It's got to leave behind something of the old order, because Saturn is in gate 49 in the solar plexus, which is all about emotional revolution and emotional revelation. This is a tribal energy that is about the cross-section of matter and spirit. So when we do ritual, when we step into ceremony, that's a cross-section of matter and spirit, and it's about acknowledging that connection and letting the higher principles that emerge through acknowledging and caretaking spirit's will, that we can make these deep and powerful changes here on Earth. So 49 being tribal has to do with resources, land, food, clothing, other human beings that are in our tribe with us, as well as animals, actually. This gate is where we directly connect to our ability to tame and, kind of coexist with the animal field and basically have this strong connection to domestication. And so what's interesting about 49, as Saturn is kind of retrograding back through it, is that this is an energy that is going to completely break down by the time 2027 rolls around. This gate of 49 is the casualty of the great change that we're about to experience as we move from the cross of planning into the cross of the sleeping phoenix. So gate 49 is going to remove our capacity to connect to the animals in the same way. It's not to say that they won't be a part of our world. It's just that we won't be able to directly interact with them in an emotional way anymore, because our emotional field is mutating into something else, and so is theirs. And there's something that goes far into our evolutionary future, almost 3 billion years into the future, where there's a whole other being and a whole other timeline in which we are comprised of 2 mammalian crystals and 1 human personality crystal. So it's like this breakdown needs to happen, because if we keep treating the mammalians of this world, the animals of this world, with such disrespect and enslaving them, and I'm not saying that I'm like pro or con vegan or anything like that, it's just the truth of the matter is that we're abusing the life force of the mammalian field. And if those crystals of consciousness that creates the bodies of the mammals are destroyed, essentially, if they are denatured by our lack of respect for them, then far in the future, when we need those cooperative components to create our new bodies, they're not going to be there. They're going to be diminished in their capacity to hold consciousness. So the program has stepped in and said, no more direct husbandry of animals, no more direct connection to animals. And that also is going to change the fact that we cannot as well digest four-leggeds. So birds and fish will still be fair game, no pun intended, but the four-leggeds, the mammalian field, will become increasingly unable to be assimilated by our bodies. And because this is a breakdown of genetic circuitry, we can almost expect that there's going to be new viruses related to food that comes from mammalian sources in the coming future. And that may be a big part of population decline, is that we almost don't realize what's happening. Why are people getting so sick? It might have something to do with the solar plexus inability to assimilate mammalian tissue any longer, and it can create big problems for us. So anyway, that's just some cool trivia about 49. The way that it's playing into this chart is in line 6. So it's taking this bird's eye view, this overview of what needs to change. And it's collecting data in the form of emotional impressions until we reach that breaking point of knowing enough is enough. This can't go on this way. I can't take any more in this relationship. I can't keep treating my body this way. I can't keep living under these, laws that don't respect my truth and liberty. So there is change in the air, and it's all about breaking old cycles, breaking away from what doesn't work, and recasting our contracts, redesigning the way that we relate to our spirit, our body, and the relationship of the two coming together as one to experience this life. Uranus, my favorite. Uranus is in gate 2 here, and gate 2 is the gate of the divine feminine, of pure yin direction. So we have Uranus, which likes sudden change after long periods of stasis, and that's why it comes across as unexpected. But this is about our direction in life. This is about our mutative direction. So Uranus is stepping in, activating us, and kind of just completely changing tracks on us and illuminating a whole new direction for us. But it's only going to come through those sudden flashes. And so we might think that we're going in one direction, and we're so used to how things have been, and we're just expecting more of the same. And Uranus in gate 2 says, well, actually, I might just pull that lever and flip the train tracks into a completely different trajectory, in which you'll just have to deal with it, because that's how Uranus's kind of consciousness works. From what I channel, is that he's kind of mischievously addicted to seeing what happens when we have to change without warning. And it usually turns out good, but it can be quite, destabilizing when it first happens. Neptune's in the gate of crisis in gate 36, which is saying that this element of crisis, this element of the darkening of the light that we're experiencing, is part of Neptune's veiling process. Neptune being right before Pluto, and Pluto being the destroyer, the thing that completely kills off the old energy signature of whatever gate it falls in. Neptune comes along before Pluto and draws the curtain, and it says, you can't see what's behind this. You will not know what transformations are taking place in this gate, because we're getting ready for the big show when Pluto follows through and annihilates that energy. So what is Neptune? It is what is veiled. We cannot clearly see the crisis we are now going through. And that's not me saying, oh, it's much worse than we think. It's just saying that no matter how hard we try, we can't quite pierce that veil and get to that sense of certainty as to what exactly is happening. And that's okay, because Neptune's energy is designed to create space in between things. And that creation of space in between things is what allows perhaps some things that are too hot to cool off, or that prevents things that would be creating a great amount of friction and destruction to not have to be so close to each other. So even though Neptune pisses off our mind because it veils the truth and it makes us feel like there's that confusion or that uncertainty, it's actually a benevolent force of kind of separating things out and spacing them out and diluting them so that we can carry on with the story, and we'll see how this pans out later. And that's the cool thing about Neptune. You're only ever going to know its true impact in retrospect, because again, it's veiled in the moment. And then we come to Pluto in gate 60, which is down here in the root, and Pluto is saying you have to grow new foundations out of the old. This is all about going beyond our previous limitations and seeing everything that's in our way that's stopping us from moving beyond our old confines, moving beyond the old systems, the old structures, the old institutions, the old ways of doing things, the old way of doing human design, the old way of doing astrology. Pluto, with its intensity, is really bearing down on us and throwing these transformative curveballs at us to force us to innovate, because gate 60 is pointing up at gate 3, the gate of new beginnings, the gate of mutation, the gate that literally selects whatever genetic combination you're going to express in your given lifetime. And so with gate 60 there, it's almost like, with Pluto in gate 60 there, it's this very special, although uncomfortable at times, opportunity to select almost all new coding. And this is going to manifest for everyone else. This is not, just sugarcoating it and saying, yeah, you're just going to freaking evolve for no good reason. It's going to happen in a way that's probably pretty grueling, because you have to dismantle all of the old things that you're used to, that hold you up, that make you feel confident, that align you into your recognition of your identity and who you think you are. And as those foundations crumble, we're kind of forced to build as we go. It's not about sitting on the foundation and just kind of building from a very static place. It's going to be that the constant change that we're being pushed through in preparation for Pluto going into Aquarius, which is really the turning point, I would say, for a lot of the narratives and the timelines that we've been experiencing, whether they go completely down into like the Phantom Matrix, or whether they kind of rebirth themselves in new quantum collectives in the new Earth. Gate 60 is making it very clear that there's choices to be made, and that there are occasions to be risen to or to rise to, and that those who are willing to go through the crucible, the transmutative alchemical fire, to be like the phoenix, to burn down to ash, and to be daring enough to be born again, those are the ones that are going to inherit the earth. Those are the ones that are going to inherit the keys to the new age. And those are the ones that are going to have the greatest blessing and connection to their ancestral lineage, to their galactic lineages. And these are beings that are multidimensional in nature. It's not saying that you have to go somewhere or they have to come here for the impact to happen. These are consciousness collectives that are woven into your DNA. And Gate 60 is subtly, but sometimes not so subtly, activating these dormant codes in our blueprint. And so when we look at the holistic chart here and we see the whole body graph, we can see that gate 61 up here in the crown is like this pinnacle crown jewel of our connection to higher source consciousness, to those high etheric astral fields. And gate 60 is its twin, essentially, on the other side of the body graph, connecting us deep into the core of the earth, really, and the void within the core of the earth that gives rise to all forms. So we're in this pressure sandwich during this moon. Pressure coming from the physical body in gate 60 and 53 as well on Mercury, and pressure coming into the mental body through gate 61. And it's like pressure makes diamonds. And Capricorns love diamonds. So this is all about allowing yourself to be squeezed and pressed and sometimes pressured in a way that's extremely uncomfortable for your human self to integrate, but is actually going to fashion you into a gem of pure consciousness, into the most refined and pure aspect or expression of who you really are. So that really feels like a good, scape of this moon's energy. And again, you're going to want to look at your human design chart, your natal chart, and you're going to want to contemplate how your circuitry is connected and directly, affected by these transiting gates, and that's unique to you. So some of us may really be feeling this energy. I know I'm feeling it. My Saturn and my Venus on the conscious side are in gate 61. So this is a big culmination point for me. Here I am. And for you, it may manifest way more in the body, or it may manifest way more in your G center, or it may manifest way more in your heart. So you have to look at this, through the lens of your design to really feel the truth of what it means for you. So I thought I'd go through some messages for each of the authorities. And it's just a fun little thing because, each full moon presents us with this culmination point. And I just felt like it would be good to do a little kind of prayer and channeling for each of the authorities. So I'm not going to do this by type, like generator, projector. I'm going to do it by what is your inner authority. So we're going to start with the most common authority, which is solar plexus. So all you emotional beings out there, you could be an emotional manifester. You could be an emotional generator. You could be an emotional projector. So it's really, you can be anything if you have an emotional authority. Those emotional authority beings right now are undergoing the greatest mutation of any of us. If you're an emotional authority being, you're literally the ground zero for the transformation of our consciousness. You are bearing the cross of redesigning our solar plexus system in this lifetime. So as these waves of change and as this higher dimensional energy continues to pour into and through the planet and from the planet, you are the ones that are absorbing this evolutionary energy and having to integrate it on a daily basis. And at the same time, live your human life and find clarity through your actions. So emotional beings, I urge you that regardless of how much pressure you're feeling, to get it right, to have that flash of insight, to have that pure, clear path of exactly where you think you need to be to live your purpose, to meet your destiny, to move forward in a way that leaves behind, gate 49, leaves behind all of these past cycles that have held you back. Understand that nevertheless, no matter how much pressure you're under, your truth and your clarity always comes first, and your clarity is never in the now. If you're an emotionally defined being, your truth is never in the now. You have to always give yourself that time and space and let yourself off the hook and communicate these boundaries very clearly that you need time to make the best decisions. But when you make aligned decisions, when you have the time and space to truly allow the clarity to emerge in your nervous system around what you're deciding on, then the whole world benefits, because there's another person here on the planet that isn't pumping out a distorted emotional frequency. And with 50% of the population emotionally defined, that means that all of us benefit from more clarity, from more coherence, from less effects from triggers and traumas and things that kind of get stuck in the emotional body and keep us looping in these cycles. So allowing yourself to luxuriously take the time you need to really become clear, even when the program itself is bearing down on you, saying, you have to know now, you have to decide now, you have to book the ticket now. If there isn't that sense of ease and clarity in the nervous system, it's not time to act yet. Next up, sacral beings. I've talked to a lot of you over the last week in readings, and it's been a joy and a pleasure. And a lot of people, as I've spoken of tonight and I've noticed, are sacral beings that are waiting. They're waiting for that next big movement to happen. They're waiting for that next big prompt from life to say, hey, here's where we really need your energy in the world. Would you like to do this? And then waiting for that clear gut response. So know this, we've gone through a massive restructuring internally, externally, societally, especially on the energetic levels of our planet. Our grids have been completely reformatted, and a lot of us and the life force itself that we carry as generators or manifesting generators is still calibrating to these new changes. Changes that have previously taken eons have kind of flashed into being since 2012 and most intensely since 2020. So if your sacral energy is still idling, if it still feels a bit stalled or stuck or confused, have compassion for yourself and don't let your mind bully you into making a decision just because you don't know what to do. Just because you're uncomfortable with this waiting process, that is not a prescription for action. Because the second that you circumvent your natural authority, which is waiting to respond from your sacral gut yes, then you're inviting more influences into your life that have nothing to do with you. Because your mind doesn't understand who you are on a core level. It only understands what it's seen on the outside, and it guesstimates to try and give you something to chase after. Reclaim your power as a sacral being with a magnetic vortex-like aura. Reclaim the peace that you get to feel in between those busy periods. Reclaim the knowing that you are always attracting the most aligned situation for you. Sometimes it takes longer than the mind is comfortable with, and that's fine. Because when you truly wait, the universe is able to design the most perfect outcomes for you and deliver them right to your door. And that is the moment of truth for any sacral being, is seeing that life is here to serve them, because your contribution is automatic. By being a sacral being, you are sustaining and regenerating the life force of the planet. We need you here. So life is designed to give you the best opportunities to share your energy in the way that's most aligned for you. So let it come. Don't get tense, don't get scared, or if you do, soothe that, and reassure yourself that your aura is working for you. Next up, splenic beings. Splenic beings are amazing beings that I love to connect with because my spleen is completely open. So your guys' intuitive prowess is something that I love to amplify because, of course, any center in our design that's open, we absorb and amplify and feel that energy more strongly that we take in from other people than we even feel our own. So splenic beings, your truth is only in the now. Unlike an emotional being that has to keep waiting out its cycle until it really gets to the core, you always know right now what's right. And that can be a challenge because your mind is like, wait. We actually know the truth right here, right now. We're certain of it. Like, how can we be certain? We have to think about it more. We have to leave the room and come back. We have to read about it and research it. No, your body is a survival machine. The splenic system is our oldest awareness center. This has gone millions and millions of years through billions, if not trillions of incarnations, from single cell organism to birds to plants. And through these different incarnations has collected every possible scenario that has to do with survival, with keeping our bodies safe and healthy in this life. If you're splenic authority, this instinct is what's here to guide you. It's what's protecting you from your mind's inability to drive the car in this life, because none of us have mental authority. And the thing that you have to remember is it's only going to speak once. Your authority only speaks once, right now, in the moment. And if you ignore that, the next second of your life, you could be flattened by a bus. You could get on the wrong plane. You could turn down the wrong alleyway, and your safety and your survival and your health might not be as good. So There's something to be said for really making space in your body, in your mind, and in your life for your instinct to take center stage as your guidance system. And remember, this is of the body. It's physical intelligence. So it's not going to come through like a thought. It's not going to return again and again like a thought. It's this one quick turn left, and then you go. And you don't turn right, because if that could be the moment that the other car crashes into you. So your existential awareness is vital, and you have to be present enough to hear it. And you have to remember, it's not going to come back and tell you again. So next up, let's talk to the ego authority. So there's the unicorns of the world. There's not that many of you that have just basically the heart center as your inner authority. The ego people, and that's not a connotation of negativity, saying ego. You are meant to have a big ego if you're ego authority, and you're meant to let that ego run the show. If you're an ego authority being, and the ones that I've spoken to recently, it feels like the ego authority beings are spearheading right now. It feels like the desires that you hold near and dear to your heart are actually what the world needs yesterday. You guys are, through actually just your ability to push through resistance, to keep in persistence after what you truly desire. It's through this process of trusting your ego and trusting what you really want and trusting in your heart's desire that you bring new things into the world that are of benefit to us all. So if there's any question in your mind, if what you want is really worthy, if what you're going after or chasing after, and you're allowed to chase, because as an ego being, it's all about doing it your way and having it your way. You actually raise the value of things for us. You actually raise our value in our own eyes and our own perception. So being around you is a huge heart healing, especially when you're in alignment with your desires and you don't block that energy off from flowing. It's like you distribute ego healing energy wherever you go. And you also help people put their fears at bay long enough to actually jump into things that are going to be super beneficial to them, that are going to help them on their ascension journey, whether that's a financial ascension journey, because the ego is about money and the material world, or whether that's a educational ascension journey, or whether that's a spiritual ascension journey. Your desires, as selfish as they may seem to some people, are actually in deep resonance with what the world needs. So go ahead, spearhead it, make the first move, go in for the big ask, make the proposal, make the slide deck, go in, get what you want, and charge your worth for it. Because when you're worthy, it helps us remember how worthy we are. Next up, we have self-projected authority. So self-projected authority people just have the G center and above defined, another more rare authority. But self-projected authority is all about trusting the voice that comes through your higher self. So you have a always-on broadband connection to your higher self as a self-projected authority, and it's really important that you have a clear understanding of what your true voice sounds like, and that you go into any blocks, any shame, any fear, any hesitancy, because your process hinges on trusting your voice. If you're not able to trust the voice that you have, then you are quite literally lost, and quite literally probably being dislocated from the journey and the path that you're meant to be on. So self-projected authority people, get your tape recorder out, get your recording device out. Listen to your voice in different contexts. Listen to your voice as you speak about different topics. Through this exploration of the different tonality and frequency of your voice in different settings or around different topics, you basically are able to discern, okay, when is my voice the most powerful, strong, true, aligned, and when is it tinny and weak? And when you can locate and lock on to that core frequency, then you begin to train your ear to listen to that core frequency that should be coming out of you in response to the invitations and the recognitions you receive. And it's through what you say in that core frequency voice that you understand your next move, who you're supposed to be working with, because you are a projector and you are a guide in some sense, and where you're going in life. So listen to that voice, love that voice, sing it loud and proud. Next up, we have the no inner authority crowd. So this is mental projectors and reflectors. So this means that you're beings with no definition below the throat in the body graph. And the thing about human design in general and about the body graph and about inner authority is that all inner authority comes from within the body. That's the game changer, is that we're not making mental decisions anymore. We're listening to the guidance of our form to navigate life, because the form knows the way through these times. Now, for those of us with no inner authority, the reflectors and the mental projectors, there is this more measured, more patient process of tuning into our sensitivity and really verifying within our design if that sensitivity is something that is communicating to us clearly, or if it's just, the daily catch, it's just something that's passing through. So no inner authority people, reflectors and mental projectors, are deeply impacted by the transits. So my message to you is to understand that you are standing outside the theater of life as a no inner authority person. That doesn't mean that you're isolated or cut off, but that means that you're here to be a witness. And it's only through taking this witness stance, first and foremost, as your primary mode, that you can truly see with the clarity that you can only bring. No inner authority beings have the perspective, the wisdom, they have the ability to see what we can't see. And so if you're trying to catch up with everyone else and run that race that's not meant for you, you're missing the bigger picture that you were born to see. And when you can communicate to us as perhaps a projector with no inner authority, as a mental projector, you can communicate to us what's really worth paying attention to, what's really worth thinking about, where we should focus our mental energy, our conceptual energy, our awareness to get the most out of life, to survive something, to, be able to address a problem that's to you guys very clear, but to us, we're so in it, we can't see it. So remember that as the witness, you're here to trust this sensitivity and then wait for the moments in which you're recognized and invited to share what you see and what you recognize. For reflectors, you guys are really standing outside of the game altogether. To be in a reflector incarnation means that you've graduated. You just got to come back for a bonus round, essentially. And so to be a reflector is to be a vessel of pure consciousness. And that means that you're not here for enduring works on the earth. You're here to be the core construct of objectivity that we can turn to when there's no other option. And that's not to say you're a savior or that you're necessarily responsible for, creating clarity for us, but there's a special place, there's like a special corner of the universe that you hold in strong coherence and strong clarity that allows you to guide us towards ourselves, because you can see us as ourselves, because you become us by connecting to us. So just understand that maybe sometimes the reflector lifetime is a little bit fringe, or that the things that you see or that pass through your awareness feel like they may never be of value or connection to the other humans here on the planet. But the main thing is that you've got to be in the right place to receive the right recognition. And I know that you're reflectors and you're not projectors, and recognition is not typically part of your strategy, but you have to be authenticated in the right environment. You have to have the right encryption for that soul group for them to value your insights. So in this era, it's really about finding your correct place and knowing that the only way to do that is to make sure that you make no moves out of a momentary transit, out of a passing influence, and that you only make moves that can withstand the test of at least one lunar cycle, 28 days, or several lunar cycles, letting all these fluctuating planets and energies move through you for several lunar cycles. And if that thing that you're contemplating, or that place you want to be, or those people you want to be with, can stick through all that change, then it's probably right for you. And you get to be valued and seen and loved and supported for the unicorn that you are, and have the special circumstances in place to support your thriving. So I think that's everybody. So Thank you so much for tuning into this special report. We'll be back again next week. Hopefully, David will be back fully integrated, and we'll have another rousing conversation about the newest updates in the timelines. And I just want to say thank you to all of you that have reached out and connected, left comments. We are creating a new culture. We are creating a new community. And this root system has a deep power in the new world we're creating. So even though a lot of it is virtual, don't second guess this. This is a powerful new beginning for all of us. And if you're here, you're family. So thank you for being with us. Details in the links below if you want to get in contact with me and explore your human design more. And I also am soon launching my DNA Alignment Academy. So if you want to learn human design with me and go through this process in a way to integrate the entire language of the system and to be able to use it in any way you see fit as a light worker, check me out, and I'll see you soon. Thanks, everyone.